Talking you decide tonight in the race to be the next governor of South Carolina. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette has now officially launched her campaign for the state's top job. She made that announcement today, or Monday, I should say, in Greenville. The next day, she joined us in studio for a one-on-one interview. Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much. You are officially running for governor. I think for anyone out there, when it comes to this primary race and to be the next governor, what do you want people to know most about you?
So first and foremost, I'm a mom. I have 3 beautiful children. I have a wonderful husband. I'm a conservative businesswoman, and I'm a woman of faith. And those are the important things that I think everybody should know about me. I think it tells a story all of itself.
Your speech when you launched your campaign in Greenville on Monday night, it talked a lot about your service as Lieutenant Governor, serving Governor McMaster, being alongside him. So I think for voters here, what separates you from Governor McMaster?
So, you know, him and I have always had a very funny joke when people have said, so what do you two disagree on, right? And I'd say, well, I'm a Clemson Tiger and he's a Carolina Gamecock. Because really, in part, the governor and I have worked hand in glove. You know, I left my business, and that was a big thing to do. And what lured me into doing that was the governor saying to me, Pamela, I want you to do whatever impacts South Carolina in a positive way. Because I said I didn't want to just sit behind a desk. I didn't want to be just some ceremonial lieutenant governor. I wanted to be impactful. And he said, I want you to be impactful. And that's what really got me excited about running, is that the governor and I have an amazing legacy together. And that legacy needs to continue.
That's what my next question was. So if voters hear you and they think, well, this will be a continuation of the McMaster administration, do you want them to assume that, or do you want them to think differently, saying, no, I'm going to be a different leader? And if that is the case, how will you be that different leader?
So, you know, I think new challenges come up every year. I'm a business owner. First and foremost, business is where I've spent the majority of my life. And you don't continue to be successful by doing the same thing, because new challenges come up. You need the next governor to have a vision, their vision. What are the new challenges? AI is going to be a challenge. Technology is going to be a challenge. You know, the governor asking in his State of the State to make sure we had money to look 16 years out at the careers of the future. Because we want to make sure that when our kids leave their senior year, they're either work ready, military ready, or college ready. And you were going to do that. My vision in doing that is making sure that our kids can get certified in high school. Kids that may never even thought they had the idea they would want to go to technical college or college. Getting them certified by 12th grade to do something, to be career ready. And then, like so many kids that you talk to later in life, they got out of school, didn't want to go to school, but then later on wanted to go back. And this opens up pathways for them to go back. It makes sure that their possibilities are limitless. And so that's what I see as the future, is to make sure we continue to grow the path that we need to grow.
You talk about Doge, that was something you mentioned in your speech. You talk about you fighting alongside Governor McMaster. Something else that you mentioned as well, your support for President Trump. You said, quote, you wanted to ensure full cooperation with President Trump's immigration enforcement. Here in the upstate, we had some concerns from some citizens when it comes to the Hispanic population in Oconee County. There's a Homeland Security raid there at a restaurant. That raised some concerns, some awareness for individuals. What do you want them to know in the upstate when it comes to the Hispanic community who may hear that and they may be concerned that you wanting to have that full cooperation with President Trump?
Well, I meant what I said. We need to cooperate with President Trump. You know, I look at this from a lot of angles, right? The Biden administration, miserable, opened our borders, put so many people's lives at risk by letting people think that they had this free, you know, walk-in into our country. And what did it do? We put people that were vulnerable in the hands of cartel and coyotes to try and get them across the border. We weren't helping anybody. It wasn't humanitarian to do that. President Trump has closed our borders, which to a large degree has helped keep people safe. I don't understand. I read an article a few years ago, and I don't know if these statistics are still ingrained, but the article that I read said 15% or less than 15% of the children that showed up at our southern border were even with a family member. Where did these children come from? If they're not with a family, did somebody kidnap them? Where are their parents and and if they were taken, can you imagine the heartbreak of their parents? So what was being done was not kind to anybody. And let's face it, we are a country of rules and laws. That's what makes us the great nation we are, and President Trump sees this.
You talked a lot about President Trump in your speech, also in your announcement video, touting of how long you've supported him. Do you expect to get his endorsement?
You know, I don't expect anything from the president, because the president, I would never be bold enough to speak for the president. But what I can say is I'm very proud of my record of supporting the president. And in January of 24, if you look at the clip of the leaders that were there to support him when he announced his campaign right here in South Carolina, I was one of the very few, the governor and I, standing with the president. So it always gives me a bit of a chuckle when I see everybody tout themselves as a Trump supporter, but wasn't there on day one to have his back before the polls. Before there were any polls to say he could win, right? Before he had won any of the primaries. I think that is the heart. And I did that not for political gain. I was a Trump supporter long before I was lieutenant governor. I did it because I knew he was the right man for the job. And I've said it time and time again, I might have said this to you in the past, is anybody should be honored to get his endorsement, but nobody should expect it.
Something that will likely come up on the campaign trail. You are from Ohio, born and raised in Ohio.
Yep.
So people here, you're running for governor of South Carolina.
Yep.
What's your message to those who may say, well, she's from out of state?
Well, I got to tell you a little bit my timeline.
Sure.
I built my business here. I raised my children here. I left a thriving national company that my husband and I created together to serve the people of South Carolina. And I've been here over 20 years. So I think I've earned my palmetto tree.
I think lastly here, I always like to ask this question. You're just now starting the campaign. But what's your promise to voters of South Carolina?
My promise to voters is the person you see today, the person you've seen the last 6 years, the person you knew as a business person before she was ever lieutenant governor, I will always be the same person. I want to be a hands-on, be at every part of the state that I can be, work as hard as I can, and listen to the people of South Carolina. I know you're never going to get everybody to agree with you 100% of the time, but I want the voters and the people to know that you have a friend in the governor's office, and that is me. And I will always listen to your concerns first and foremost.
Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much.
Thank you.